And you've just heard Spring Cleaning by Zerrin, a track from the EP Talking to Myself. And I'm joined by Zerrin now. Hello.
Hi, how are you going?
I'm really well, thanks. But before we talk about the rest of the EP, what can you tell us about the track Spring Cleaning?
So, Spring Cleaning is really a song about time passing, cycles of life, kind of entering new phases. And I guess that both being exciting, but also daunting or sad. So, it was kind of initially spurred for me as a song last year after some kind of personal family grieving that was happening. And realizing how much I felt at the same time, that sense of grief with the passing of time, as well as the joy and the push forward. So it's sort of balancing both those two things together. But also with like an ingredient in there about, I think trying to push forward and, be the best person you can be, kind of the pressure that you put on yourself to do more and be better, or change habits that you've had from the past with the passing of the new season, that kind of stereotype of the spring cleaning. So it's time to, clean everything and somehow get your whole life sorted within the space of a short, period of time. And that pressure as well, I think.
I
Yeah.
think it's a really lovely idea, that thing that you spring clean your life as well as you might, practical kind of side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've just been watching the video for it this morning. Can you talk about shooting that? And because I think, having heard you explain the song, a lot of that's in the video as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah, good. I'm glad. Yeah, so I worked with my friend Deborah on this one, and she's Deborah Maite. She's a brilliant filmmaker. She makes short films and works on all sorts of projects, as well as now trying to branch into kind of more of a music video making. And we had a lot of conversations about, I guess, the aesthetic space we wanted it to take up, but also the mood that we wanted it to sit in. And we really wanted it to feel kind of fresh and joyful and kind of ecstatic, all of this kind of weird, wild energy going on, but kind of the strangeness as well. So it was very much from the beginning, the idea was me just like running around in the landscape in the hills, kind of doing these odd, surreal tasks in
Chasing a
the
tire
wrong place.
down the hill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she would just honestly, some of these things, like we had so many things on the list to try, and she's like, "Oh, we found a tire. Do you want to chase this down the hill?" Or we'll put out some washing lines on, the trees, and trying to bring that domestic space into the wildness so that it's sort of a clash of places, like the surrealness essentially. We're very inspired by especially kind of old pastoral folk aesthetics, both some of the horror stuff. Like I'm sure you saw, I said we were both influenced by The Wicker Man, but definitely the color palette, that kind of beautiful British Isles pagan folk color palette, where you've got these bright reds and greens and blues and like the ribbons and these quite like childlike, naive, joyful elements with this sense of slightly disturbing, creepy, timeless, mythical qualities going on at the same time. So I wanted to bring that together a bit.
And I think that's when I first saw it. The Wicker Man's one of my favorite films. Absolutely.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
good.
And it fits in with that. You could imagine this playing, you've got the schoolhouse in the film, and this is perhaps just to the side of it, kind of playing in
Yeah.
that kind of scenario. And there are moments of reflection, like the laying of flowers onto the stone and things like that as well. Yeah, so for people listening, do go and check it out. It's a lovely video. Was it good fun to shoot?
It was very fun to shoot. It was quite crazy as well because so we were very lucky. We got some funding to make it from the Glasgow City of Music UNESCO Fund. So part of that helped cover the cost, which so Deborah was really keen to use 16 millimeters to film with. So we kind of had this very, very small crew squished into a little car, 5 of us in total, with all the props and everything that we had, and then we drove out into kind of inland Ayrshire. There's like a whole lot of beautiful rural kind of pastoral hills, but also this ruined castle that we found that was really fantastic by like a gorge. So we drove out there and we just shot everything over the course of one day, from very early in the morning to right into the evening, sort of running around with this big, heavy like camera equipment and like trying to change the film reels in the best dark space we could create in the back of the car, and hoping that we hadn't ruined any of the film, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was really, really fun. Lots of
I was going to say, if you're going to capture a Wicker Man essence, rural Ayrshire is maybe the perfect place, but I'm only Ayrshire people. I'm only but I mean, I don't know anything about film, but does using this 16mm film give it that kind of almost 70s film feel about it? Because it's got that quality.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially as close you can get to that sort of space with the portable camera style, as opposed to, I mean, I'm not by any means a film expert on these sort of technical areas myself. I love that style. I love seeing the effects that these filming techniques have. But yeah, definitely in terms of like a portable vintage filming style, 16mm is pretty close, and it really pops with things like reds and blues. It captures those sort of contrasts really well. Yeah, so we took it out there and it was very fun, and we were very, very lucky because, as you know, the spring this year was not fantastic. There was not a lot of lovely, beautiful blue days to shoot with, and I don't know what happened because we'd planned it in advance. It was like the one day that everyone could do. And that morning we woke up and it was like it is right now, really, really blue outside. And finally, some of the daffodils had come out in places. And we're just like, whoa, I don't know, but we're very lucky. That's exactly what we wanted. So got to take it.
Yeah, I had that thought as well. You've really done well to get that day, because it's got that kind of wonderful kind of midsummer feel about it, which I guess is what we were going for. And there are 3 other tracks on the EP. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, totally. So all of them, kind of a running theme, I guess, throughout them is this sort of balancing of interior, different kind of contrasting feelings that I've been working through, I guess, myself. So it is quite like a personal, reflective EP in a lot of ways. The first track, Maintenance Phase, which came out earlier, and also has a video that Deborah made, which, yeah, so you can see she's amazing. But that one is in some ways the opposite in terms of setting. It's about kind of wrapping yourself in this very, very protected internal blanket and sort of staying away from the rest of the world. And we for that video, all of it was very, very still and kind of in this one apartment with like layers and layers of fabric and this laziness, and essentially exploring depression, demotivation, feelings of inadequacy, like that you keep judging yourself for not being able to do more than you're doing. And that just sends you even more into this spiral of feeling like you can't do anything. So that one, for me, the name of that, the Maintenance Phase, is this idea of recognizing when you just have to stop and accept that that's where you are. So in some ways, you know, it's about these hard things, but it's kind of a positive thing at the same time, because it's giving yourself the space to just do the basics, to just be lying and not pushing yourself beyond that, and not feeling like you should be reaching for the stars in this moment. It's okay to just take a bit of time, and that you come through that and it's okay. Yeah.
And in a moment, we're going to hear Cloud Baby. How can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so that one was added. I wanted to put it in, definitely, but it kind of, right to the end, I wasn't sure whether it was going to work. And part of that was because, unlike the other 3, I didn't develop that one around this sort of core drum part that was played in, recorded in studio at Green Door with Liam Chapman. And so kind of less traditional song structure in some ways, and a little bit more experimental in terms of producing style as well, because what I wanted to do was chop up this piano part that my friend Kathy did a beautiful job playing, but kind of layer it in all sorts of ways with synths, with kind of the echoes, but kind of quite subtly, like not be too crowded, but it's quite like a slippy textured one, and there's not a clear beat throughout it. But so I'm really happy with how it came together in the end, and I'm so glad that it got to that point. But yeah, that one's sort of about abstracted longing and desire, this sort of hard to put your finger on feeling of just sort of wanting, and you're not even sure quite what it is. So hence the kind of cloud baby. It's sort of projecting an imagined kind of precious, perfect thing into the skies, but it's not just as simple as, you know, wanting this one clear thing. It's all of it at once. Too much to describe, kind of thing. Yeah.
So, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how you approach making music, but that's interesting in itself, that even individual tracks are on the same EP can be looked at and in a different way.
Yeah, no, totally. And it is quite different to then, like the last track, It's Happening Again. That one is quite grounded in the rhythm, and it does have this sort of steady beat and kind of a purposefully very repetitive beat as well. So the kind of drum part for that one doesn't change almost at all. And it was quite a challenge, I think, in the end for Liam to play, even though it's not that complex a part, because it's so hypnotically goes on, and it's about kind of getting into this feeling of sameness and continuing and repeating. And I know that by the end of recording that one was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to stop. I'm ready to play something else. I'm ready to put out some big beats right now. Yeah.
But he enjoys a challenge, I think. Yes. I know, yes.
Definitely enjoys a challenge. Yeah. You should have heard him when I said that the inspiration for spring cleaning had this pagan elements, and he's like, perfect, I'm going to bring out my big bells. I've got these. It's like, what else do you want? I'm like, all right, great.
So how did you approach the EP as a whole? How do you work in terms of your music? Does it change all the time?
I think the songwriting hasn't changed that much. I've just gotten more and more comfortable with the process in that. Right. I'd say that the beginning sort of sparks of songs start in all sorts of times. Like sometimes it's at home just playing music and sort of exploring, and then a song starts to emerge. But other times it will very much be I'm at work, and I work at a bar, and I'm humming to myself while I put stock away, and then that's the beginning of something, and I'll just like record a little snippet in my phone to try and remember for later. So those kind of first little sparks, beginning ideas, I just sort of try and catch when I can and make as much about it kind of concrete for the future, whether that's some of the ideas in it or some melodies or words or whatever. And then it's about, for me at least, going back into it again and again and kind of ruminating in the song for a long time. Like, I don't think I'm a very quick worker. Like sometimes I have the whole structure of the song really quickly, but then I'll really take my time with some of the last details of it or the lyrics that I want to use finally to kind of nail down the exact idea. So yeah, a lot of ruminating in that stage and just sort of playing it again and again and again. But then transferring that to the producing and the mixing, I find the more that I've taken on that part myself, which I really, really enjoy, they sort of keep feeding back into each other. So it's not done in an order where I just put away the songwriting and then I go, now it's producing time. Yeah. And then now it's mixing time and then we're done. There's quite a lot of realizing as I've gotten to maybe the end stage of producing or mixing that actually I want to change something there. I think it's going to work better if I go back and then swap that out in, or so it's quite a playful process the whole way through, I think. Yes. Yeah, so it's not like you can say, right, today I'm putting on my producer's hat and that's that. There's a kind of, they blend, everything kind of works with each other.
And then when are other musicians brought in? When does that stage happen?
So kind of a mix, I'd say, with drums, which I knew I wanted to make quite a core part of it. That was quite a bit earlier than other people. So me and Liam started playing with some of the songs, and I had like demos that I'd sent him, and we were working on it based on that. But then we ended up taking that to Green Door to record as a full drum part, to make the kind of core of those songs. So that's where the beginning point of those finished tracks was using that as, I guess, a framework, and saying, this is the drum structure, and then I'm going to put everything else that I've been thinking about or working on into that. So his was very early on. Other ones are a little bit more, I guess, sort of responsive to who happened to be around and who wanted to do things. And it's something that I want to do more and more of, finding that balance where I can do a lot on my own, but then it's really, really a pleasure to bring someone else in and see what they can add to it. With Maintenance Phase, the flute was actually my dad who was visiting. Yeah. Yeah, it was really beautiful. So him and my mum were coming, we came over like late last year from Australia to stay for a little bit, and he'd brought his flute, which he just tends to do, which is really great.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So like, let's jam it. Let's have like a little go at this and that. And yeah, so kind of added that one in near the end, but it really made it. Like, I was very, very happy that he could have brought that in. And I think there's not as much other kind of musicians who've come in. Like Kathy was involved in the keys in both Maintenance Phase as well as Cloud Baby, but I would kind of like to do more of that in the future. I think being kind of open to all sorts of different musicians and their instruments. Yeah.
Because people who aren't musicians themselves may not realise, but there's a real strong community of musicians in Glasgow, and there are in most cities, but you know, the city that we're in just now, Glasgow, where you're making your music, that they're often, you know, someone might be available, you think, oh, could you do this? And they go, yeah, no problem at all. It can happen that way.
No, definitely. Yeah. And this city is truly filled with, like, I mean, I think the fact that we realized we're based so near each other, we're kind of around the corner, and like this area alone has so many musicians living in it, some of whom I know and some of whom I continue to meet and find out about. So it's like very densely packed with people making music, for sure.
And following on from that, you had your EP launch at the Rum Shack in Glasgow. How was that?
Oh, it was so fun. It was so lovely. Yeah. Really great celebratory feeling. I really liked that venue. They were super lovely and helpful in terms of putting it on. It's just a really nice space to use. Super kind of central, as you say, to the south side. And it's felt really nice to be able to do it there, considering most people I know in this city are based in south side. So to kind of have it be in this more community convenient space was also really great. Really great turnout on a Tuesday night. I appreciated that. Part of why we put it on a Tuesday night was because I've got a lot of friends in hospitality and music as well, who are often pre-booked in for Fridays, Saturdays for months in advance. So, you know, midweek, brilliant. Both Liam and Kathy were part of the live band for that, as well as my friend Greg, who plays guitar. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. Sports Rock also played, who are kind of a local band just starting out, and they're really great. Yeah, it was very fun.
Fantastic. Are there any plans for future live dates you can tell us about?
Not at the moment, but you know, there will be in the incoming. As I'm sure you're kind of aware, I'm going back to Australia for a little bit, but it's not a permanent shift. It's sort of a be closer to family for a while. It's been a very long time, kind of an unintentionally long time. I think that's just because it's been so great. We initially thought, me and my partner, that we would be here for maybe 2 years, and it's been 6 going on 7. So yeah, I feel like it's time to spend a little bit of time with our family for sure, because it's so far away.
Yeah.
But Scotland is always going to be a very central, I think, the magnet of it, drawing me back again and again. Yeah, so definitely plans to still come back and play shows and put on gigs for sure. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I love the EP. It's just it's a thing of beauty. I really do. You know, listen to the tracks over and over since it's come out. And I say we're going to listen to Cloud Baby in a moment. But before we do, Zerrin, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Alistair. It's been really, really lovely. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And this is Zerrin and Cloud Baby.